Deep in the heart of Appalachia, where the fog clings to mountain peaks and winding trails lead to secrets long hidden, there lived a man who refused to bow to the rules of modern society. A man who kept alive a tradition as old as the hills themselves. His name was Popcorn Sutton, moonshiner, outlaw, and legend. Popcorn Sutton wasn't just any moonshiner. He was the last of his kind, a man who lived and died by his own code, carrying on the ancient craft of distilling white lightning in the shadows of the Smoky Mountains. For Popcorn, moonshining wasn't just a way to make a living. It was a birthright, a tradition passed down through generations of Scottish-Irish immigrants who settled these mountains, escaping the heavy hand of government and taxation. But Popcorn's story is more than just one man's rebellion. It's the story of a culture shaped by hardship, independence, and resistance. It's a story about freedom. Freedom from the government, freedom from the law, and freedom to live by your own rules. Yet, in the eyes of the law, Popcorn Sutton was a criminal, a relic of a bygone era, refusing to fade away. He was hunted, arrested, and convicted. But Popcorn wasn't about to let the government write the last chapter of his life. This is the story of Popcorn Sutton, the man who made moonshine, made headlines, and made history. To understand Popcorn Sutton, you have to understand where he came from. The Appalachian Mountains, rugged, remote, and steeped in tradition, were more than just home. They were a way of life. Marvin Sutton was born on October 5th, 1946, in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. He would later become known to the world simply as Popcorn Sutton. But long before the fame and infamy, he was just another mountain boy, growing up in a place where making your own way was the only way. Life in Appalachia wasn't easy. The land was beautiful, but it was harsh. Work was hard, money was scarce, and communities were isolated. For many, moonshining wasn't a crime, it was survival. It put food on the table and clothes on the back. For generations, families like the Suttons passed down the secrets of distilling white lightning. To them, it wasn't just liquor, it was tradition. It was rebellion against government control. And young Marvin Sutton was no different. He took to moonshining like a fish to water. He learned early on that moonshining wasn't just about the drink. It was about the craft. The perfect balance of corn, sugar, and yeast. The careful watch over a bubbling still. And the pride of producing something pure. Something real. But how did Marvin Sutton become Popcorn Sutton? Well, like most things in his life, it came from a story worth telling. Legend has it that one night, in a barroom brawl, Marvin Sutton got into a heated argument with a popcorn machine. After a few drinks too many and a few words exchanged, he beat the machine to pieces with a pool cue. From that day on, he was known as Popcorn Sutton, a name as colorful as the man himself. But Popcorn wasn't just known for his quick temper or sharp tongue. He was a storyteller. A man who could hold a crowd with tales of the mountains, the law, and the life of a moonshiner. His stories weren't just entertainment. They were history. They were culture. Popcorn Sutton grew up knowing that his family's legacy ran through every drop of moonshine he made. But as he came of age, it became clear that his life would be about more than just running liquor through mountain trails. He wasn't just any moonshiner. He was born to be a legend. For Popcorn Sutton, moonshining wasn't just a job. It wasn't a crime. It was an art, a craft passed down through generations, perfected by hands that knew the mountains like family. In Appalachia, moonshining was born out of necessity. Government taxes on liquor made store-bought whiskey too expensive for many. So mountain folks made their own, clean, strong, and untaxed. But for Popcorn Sutton, it was more than just survival. It was pride. Popcorn's process was simple, yet exacting. His stills were works of art, crafted from copper for purity. The mash? A perfect blend of corn, sugar, and yeast, and every drop was watched, tested, and tasted until it met his exacting standards. Moonshining wasn't just about making liquor. It was about independence. It was about sticking it to the government, which Popcorn believed had no right to tax what a man made with his own two hands.
Why do you think anybody would have ever turned you in for making liquor?
Well, they thought I was making a dollar that they didn't get. You know how the world is. If they see you making a dollar and they don't get half of it, makes them greedy as hell, I reckon. I hope whoever turned me in, by God, may they rest in hell, is all I can say about it. And they probably will. Because you see, there ain't a thing here that I didn't pay for. I didn't steal a damn piece of nothing, sure. Paid taxes on the copper, paid taxes on the sugar, on the jars. I didn't steal nothing, so I don't think I broke the law anywhere.
But the law didn't see it that way. For generations, moonshiners and the government played a dangerous game of cat and mouse. Federal agents, called revenuers, hunted illegal stills, destroying equipment and arresting anyone who defied liquor laws. Over the years, he ran countless gallons of white lightning through the hills of Tennessee and North Carolina, often right under the noses of federal agents. He became a master of evasion, using the dense forests and winding trails of Appalachia to stay one step ahead. Every jar Popcorn sold wasn't just moonshine. It was a statement that the mountains belonged to the people who lived there, not to the men in Washington. But Popcorn's legend wasn't just built on his skill with a still. It was his personality, sharp-witted, foul-mouthed, and endlessly defiant. He told stories that made you laugh and think, often punctuated with his trademark phrase, "Ain't nothing better than liquor made right, and I'm the best damn moonshiner you ever did meet." Popcorn wasn't content to let his story die with him. In 1999, he self-published his autobiography, Me and My Liquor, a no-holds-barred guide to moonshining. He laid it all out, recipes, stories, and his views on government interference. It was his way of passing the torch, ensuring the craft wouldn't be forgotten. But sharing his secrets came with a price. As Popcorn's fame grew, so did the attention from the authorities. The man who had spent his life dodging the law was about to face his biggest challenge yet. By the late 1990s, Popcorn Sutton wasn't just a moonshiner. He was a legend. His sharp tongue, old-school methods, and defiance of the law made him a folk hero in the Appalachian Mountains. But fame has a way of attracting the wrong kind of attention. In 2002, filmmaker Neil Hutchison released a documentary that would introduce Popcorn to the world. "This is the last damn run of liquor I'll ever make," followed Popcorn, as he prepared what he claimed would be his final batch of moonshine. But anyone who knew him knew better. Popcorn Sutton wasn't quitting for anyone. The film captured everything that made Popcorn a legend: the craft, the stories, and his unwavering hatred for what he called the damn government. His raw honesty, mixed with humor and rebellion, turned him into a cultural icon almost overnight. But as Popcorn's fame spread, it wasn't just fans who took notice. The federal government had been watching, and Popcorn Sutton's growing notoriety made him an irresistible target. For years, Popcorn had been running moonshine through the hills, carefully, quietly, and always one step ahead. But in 2007, federal agents finally caught up with him. After receiving a tip, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, ATF, raided his property. What they found was staggering. Over 850 gallons of illegal moonshine, stills, and countless supplies. For Popcorn, it was his life's work. For the ATF, it was enough to press federal charges. Popcorn pleaded guilty to illegally distilling spirits and possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. At the age of 61, he was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. But for a man like Popcorn Sutton, prison wasn't just a punishment. It was a death sentence. To Popcorn, prison meant dying behind concrete walls, far from his beloved mountains. And he wasn't about to let the government have the final say in his story. For Popcorn Sutton, the mountains were more than just home. They were freedom, a place where a man could live by his own rules. But in 2009, that freedom was threatened, and Popcorn was running out of time. After his 2007 conviction, Popcorn faced 18 months in federal prison. At 61 years old, with a lifetime of hard living behind him, he believed that sentence was a death sentence. The thought of dying behind cold prison walls, far from the mountains he loved, was more than he could bear. In true Popcorn Sutton fashion, he made a decision. One final act of defiance. He had always lived on his own terms, and he would die that way too. On March 16th, 2009, just days before he was scheduled to report to prison, Popcorn Sutton ended his own life. He was found in his green Ford Fairlane, with a hose running from the exhaust pipe into the car. It was his final run, his last rebellion. Popcorn Sutton was laid to rest on his own land, surrounded by the hills and forests he had called home. His gravestone, a blunt, final message to a government he believed had no right to rule him, became a symbol of his life and legacy. To the people of Appalachia, Popcorn wasn't just a moonshiner. He was a storyteller, a craftsman, and a symbol of freedom. His death didn't mark the end of his story. In many ways, it was just the beginning of his legend. In the years after his death, Popcorn's legend grew. His life inspired books, documentaries, and songs. His name became synonymous with the spirit of the Appalachian Mountains, rebellious, independent, and free. Ironically, after spending his life running from the law for making moonshine, Popcorn's name now appears on legal whiskey sold in stores. His face adorns bottles, and his recipe lives on. But some wonder, would Popcorn have approved? Popcorn Sutton spent his life fighting against commercialization, taxes, and government control. Yet today, his legacy is part of a legal, taxed industry. Did Popcorn win in the end? Or did the system find a way to claim his legend? Maybe that's the point. Popcorn Sutton didn't just make moonshine. He made a statement. He lived by his own rules, loved his mountains, and refused to be tamed. In a world that tried to break him, Popcorn Sutton stayed free until the very end. And maybe, somewhere in those Appalachian hills, where the mist still clings to the trees, you can hear the echoes of an old moonshiner's laugh, reminding us all that some legends never die. If you enjoyed this story of America's last great moonshiner, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales of legends and outlaws. And tell us in the comments, do you think Popcorn Sutton was a criminal or a hero of freedom? We'd love to hear your thoughts.